Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, can you hear me okay? All right, very good. Let me move this down so I can see you and you can see me. Okay, so thank you all for attending our event, and thank you for attending TLU Day, particularly today. We're here this morning to talk about digitalization and orchestration. So we're going to first start with orchestration. That's sort of where we want to be, and we're going to sort of define what do we mean by orchestration. Orchestration is really about the integration of people and processes and data across your end-to-end supply chain. And you do that so that you can achieve sort of this intelligent end-to-end management about your supply chain. So, and then particularly when you kind of delve in, orchestration gets into how do you plan? How do you coordinate? How do you synchronize? How do you optimize all of your different supply chain activities that are happening across all of your supply chain partners in that end-to-end supply chain? And that's really what orchestration gets into, is how you do all of that and the enablement for doing all of that. And executing well, you can coordinate everything. You can, from your procurement and manufacturing all the way through distribution and logistics, all the way through the supply chain. And when you do that, you can then start to achieve a really cost-effective, a secure, efficient, on-time delivery of your supply chain capabilities and product out to your end customers. But that's pretty daunting. It's really hard to do. And how do we get there? And how do other companies think about it? So what we did is we talked to a number of our customers and global customers. We went across the globe, talked to whether it was pharmaceutical companies, contract manufacturers, healthcare, large retail pharmacy chains, and so on. And we spoke to them to try to really understand, as you're trying to achieve sort of this end-to-end supply chain orchestration, what are some of the major goals and improvements of what you're trying to achieve? And we had a lot of recurring themes of what companies were talking about. So we see the different common objectives that they were looking at. They really want to reduce out of stocks and maintain lean inventory levels. They want to achieve on-time and full goals and eliminate failure to supply. They want to smoothly launch new products into the market and into the different global markets that they're participating in. But do this the whole time while trying to reduce operational costs and improve service levels for their customers. And so when we looked across this, we said, okay, how are you doing on that? Is it easy? Is it hard? Are you encountering challenges, obstacles? And again, we heard a lot of recurring themes in terms of some of the challenges. And some of the challenges we heard about were things like maintaining accurate forecasts and managing channel inventory, having timely visibility into outsourced manufacturing, having timely visibility into order fulfillment across different markets that they're participating in, and understanding and managing lead times. And so when we think about this journey to embark on orchestrating across our supply chain, we're thinking about it in the context of this landscape, these goals that companies are trying to achieve, but also the challenges that they're facing as they're taking steps down towards that journey. And when you think about orchestration and what does it touch? We covered a little bit, but what does it touch in terms of the supply chain? It touches a lot of operational capabilities, and it touches those across multiple different kinds of supply chain partners. So it involves the integration of different processes and systems in your organization: planning, production, inventory, order management, distribution, transportation, logistics systems. And it doesn't stop there. It's not just about what's inside of your enterprise, and it's not just what's happening inside of your four walls, your people, your systems, your data, et cetera. To achieve orchestration, you need integration across all of your supply chain partners. It very much goes outside of your four walls. And this means end-to-end digitalization. And this is where now digitalization comes into play, with synchronized transaction flows across your supply chain partners. And digitalization of your supply chain processes is really that prerequisite that you have to do in order to achieve that orchestration, especially if you want to achieve intelligent orchestration. It's one of the building blocks that you need to put in place in order to get there. You need the data, you need the accurate data, you need consistent meaning and understanding of that data across your supply chain parties, if then you're going to use that data to make decisions and to take new actions based on what that data is telling you. So orchestration then now builds on that end-to-end digitalization so that then you can improve how do you plan, how do you coordinate, how do you execute your supply chain activities across your end-to-end supply chain. So TraceLink, with the capabilities that you're going to be learning about throughout the day and over the next couple of days, is really the single orchestration platform that spans across all of the segments of the supply chain. And it integrates with all the different business systems that you see here that are being used by those different supply chain parties. And by having yourself at the heart of that and your ability to link with all of your supply chain partners, integrate with them, not worrying about what kind of systems they're using, et cetera, that's where we can come into play and where we help you and where you're going to learn about how do I leverage that capability and how do I use that. And when we're talking about doing this, what do we mean? What we mean is doing this across literally the end-to-end supply chain, the manufacturers, the contract manufacturers, the wholesale distributors, the third-party logistics providers, direct material suppliers, wholesale distributors, retail pharmacies, really the whole spectrum of the supply chain. So wherever you sit in this supply chain, it's the people upstream from you, it's the people downstream from you, and it's the people somewhat horizontal to you that may partner with you in whether it's your external manufacturing or your logistics that are performing services on your behalf. And it's all the different transactions that you see kind of listed here. We're not going to go into each one. You'll learn more about these as we progress through the day, but it's all of the different touch points and steps of everything that you're executing with them. So how does TraceLink help you with this? There's a lot going on here. How do we help you with this? This is really the focus of our Mint solution. So Mint enables you to create networks with your supply chain partners. And so when you think about all of the different ecosystems that, as a company, that you might participate in, I might be in a customer network, it's just customers and suppliers. You might be the customer, you might be the supplier. I might be in a logistics network. I might be in an external manufacturing network, and so on. And I participate in many of those. My end-to-end network is the union of all of these. That's my end-to-end supply chain. And so how do I model these networks? How do I model my supply chain and what it looks like and who all the parties are and create their digital twin? That's the basis. By then, I can see how I'm linked to them, I can see what I'm doing with them, and then I can exchange that information with them. Mint enables you at the very first point to do that. Model your supply chain in the digital twin. Then it lets you integrate with your supply chain partners and digitalize those transactions. All those transactions that we saw on the previous slide, it allows you to digitalize all those transactions and exchange those transactions system to system, party to party, person to person, across your different supply chain partners. And it does so in a manner where you're including all of your supply chain partners, not just your top tier, because then you're not modeling your full end-to-end supply chain. It's also the full long tail. So it's really including everybody and digitalizing all transactions across everybody using our business to network integrate once model. And then it allows you to monitor the progress, the status, and the performance of your processes across your supply chain partners, because it's not just about the exchange of the data. It's also about the visibility about what's happening between us. And that is really important and really what we're trying to achieve through the digitalization journey. So with our business to network integrate once model, Mint enables the inclusion of all of your supply chain partners, regardless of their capability levels. And the companies can interact system to system if you're both capable of integration. You can interact system to person if one of you is capable of integration but the other is not, or person to person, where neither of you are capable, or maybe for that given business process, that given transaction, you choose to go person to person, meaning manually or through some sort of a web interface. And in some cases, that's okay. And so it really supports the full spectrum, and you don't have to care or worry about what anybody else is doing. You just have to care about what's my piece and how do I do that. So when we say that a company can connect with any method of their choice, what does that mean? It means they can say, I want to do asynchronous B2B messaging. Or they may say, I want to do API integration using the API of my ERP system. Or they may say, I want to use the web UI, or even email. And I'll send it to you as an attachment through email. And you want the ability to accept that, or you want the ability to be the one sending that in some cases. And then when we say format of choice, what do we mean? We mean EDIX12, Edifact, IDOC if you're using SAP, XML, JSON, flat files, CSV, what have you. These are the different things we see out there that different companies are using. And so people should be able to use their format of choice. That's what we mean by that. And because of this, and when you leverage that and you have these sort of freedoms of choice in these different areas, the difficult, complex point-to-point integrations are gone. They're eliminated. Because you never have to worry about the method, the format, the protocol that your supply chain partners are using to integrate with you. All you have to worry about is you. You worry about your format, you worry about your protocol, you worry about your integration method, and you focus and your data, and you focus on you. And that's really what we've done here and what we're enabling here. So if everybody focuses on themselves and how do they enable them the way that's going to work best in their company, whether it's you or your supply chain partners, and nobody has to worry about anybody else, now you can start moving a whole lot quicker. And you can be all-inclusive with anyone. And so you're going to hear more when Dan comes up. He's going to peel back the onions more about this, and he's going to give you some visualization. He's going to give you a little bit of understanding of the how as well. Okay, so Mint enables a number of orchestrations across the supply chain, spanning with many different processes. So you have processes with external manufacturing partners. So this is between, let's say, a pharmaceutical company and their contract manufacturer, contract packaging partner. You have integrations with direct supply, which is basically any company with their direct material suppliers. You have integrations dealing with logistics. So let's say a pharmaceutical company with their third-party logistics provider. You have integrations in general between customers and suppliers. So whether it's pharmaceutical companies, wholesale distributors, retail pharmacies, hospitals, integrating on their different business transactions for finished goods moving across the supply chain. You have what we're currently working on now is fully building out a robust set of transportation transactions between the transportation provider and their client for the different modalities of transportation, so air, ocean, motor, rail, for moving goods globally across the supply chain. And then on a roadmap, clinical supply. So it's not just two parties integrating together. It starts getting a little bit more complex. This is integrating clinical trial sponsors, IRTs, CDMOs, logistics partners, and the clinical trial sites. An ecosystem unto themselves with all the things that when you're executing a clinical trial and doing the clinical kit distribution and enabling the interactions and the exchange of information to support that. So you've kind of got a flavor of the things that Mint is enabling and supporting. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of now take a little deeper step into each of the three orchestrations that you're going to hear more about in our afternoon sessions in our orchestration architects track. So we're going to first delve into Mint for external manufacturing. So here, this Mint for external manufacturing is really focused on integrating the pharma companies and their CMOs with each other and to optimize planning and ensure on-time delivery. And the kinds of transactions that we're digitalizing here are things like the forecasts, the purchase order and the PO commitment process, manufacturing steps, inventory visibility, tracking delivery of what the CMO has produced, whether that's API or finished good, and tracking delivery of that. The next is meant for logistics, and this integrates, let's say, a pharmaceutical company or any party, could be a wholesale distributor, with their logistics partner for their 3PL services that they leverage to achieve the highest level of order fulfillment performance. And here we're digitalizing things like warehouse stock transfer movements, inventory visibility, warehouse ship orders, delivery advice when things have come back and been shipped out to the customers, and shipment notifications, and also the 4PL transactions. So, for example, when you outsource the order-to-cash processes out to your logistics partner, and then synchronizing that information back. So the whole soup to nuts of the full logistics visibility and integration. And then lastly, meant for commerce, which basically is orchestrating between customers and suppliers the distribution of finished goods into the supply chain, but it's also the same capability that's leveraged between any customer and their supplier, like a pharmaceutical company and a direct material supplier. And this is covering all of the capabilities that enable on-time and full product availability and improving customer service levels by digitalizing and orchestrating your product catalog, the PO commitment process, shipment notifications, return authorizations, credit debit memo, chargebacks, you name it. All of the end-to-end supply chain capabilities that are used to exchange product and exchange information, all the different demand signal data that would come back so that you can create that proper forecast. So it's the exchange of all that information end-to-end through those different parties in the supply chain. So you're going to hear more about these in extreme detail in that track this afternoon. So what we're going to do is take a shift a little bit, and we're going to talk about how do you go about this. And because Mint is not just about, data translation and mapping and B2B exchange. It might almost sound like that right now, but it's so much more. And it's so much more because of our Opus platform. And what I'm going to do next is introduce some of the capabilities that you're going to hear in the Opus track for the Opus platform, some of the capabilities that you really can put Mint to work for you and really leverage Mint to tailor to your specific business processes and each of the different kinds of orchestrations that you execute on to really hone it to how you do business and how you want to optimize how you do business. And so the key center of this, I would say, is the Opus solution environment. And this is an Opus platform capability that allows you to configure Mint and configure your orchestrations so that you make those solutions specific to you. So you can specify which transactions do I need. You saw a whole bunch of transactions on all those previous slides, but you may look at that and say, I don't use all of those today. I only use a subset of those. Maybe some of you will say I do use all of them. But for those of you who say only use a subset, you can just configure it so that it's only going to show the subset that you do use. And maybe over time you'll grow to more, and then you can add those in. But you start with what makes sense for you. You can specify what fields on the UI screens do I want. When I do a purchase order, I only care about these fields. When I'm doing inventory reports, I only care about these fields. My forecast cares about this. So you can then configure your user interface so that it's showing you and showing your supply chain partner just the specific fields that you care about. You can name them the way you like. If you don't like the names TraceLink gave, and you have your own terminology that you can use that terminology there and configure that. And you can add specific field logic where you might want certain things, if A is present, then B must be present, and so on, and put in your own specific logic. And you can modify the workflows, include workflow steps. So for example, you might say, I want to insert an approval process here before this transaction flows out to my supply chain partner because I want a second level approver when certain conditions are met. Or the other way around, my supply chain partner is sending something to me. Before that hits my ERP system, I want to put in an approval step when certain conditions are met so I can have somebody in my company look at it and say, yep, this is okay, and then let it flow into me. Or I can choose just let it flow as is. But there's a lot of capability that you have there. You also have the ability to create user roles so that you can ensure the right permissions and who can do what, whether it's for you, whether it's for your supply chain partner. The next is reports and dashboards. When we talked about orchestrations, it's not just about the data, but it's also about the data visibility and understanding what's happening in your business processes. Opus reports and dashboards allows you to have that visibility. The Mint orchestrations are now going to start providing out-of-the-box reports and dashboards to give you that visibility across your orchestrations. And you're going to be able to do things like modify the existing reports and dashboards that we give you as sort of your starters. And you may say, you know what, I also want to see these 3 or 4 different fields, or I don't care about this thing, I want to take that out, or I want to tailor this chart and make it look different. I want to see the progression in a different way, or I care about these specific supply chain partners, so I want to hone it in so I have that view. And you'll be able to do all of that based on the reports and dashboards that are there. But you may also say, I want to make my own. I want to create my own reports and dashboards from scratch, and you'll be able to do that as well in a no-code, low-code manner. And so you can define your own reports, you can organize things the way you like, have it called the way you like, you can design your own dashboards off of that report data that then will chart it up in a way that makes sense for you. You also have the ability to create these pages that tell stories about what's happening in your supply chain. You can do things like, I want to create certain pages that are going to give me a profile view of these specific business processes, maybe certain types of supply chain partner activities. I want to see these things for external manufacturers. I want to see these things for my customer supplier finished good relationships. I want to see things in this region maybe. And I can go in and create the pages with all the different reports and dashboards laid out on that page so that every time I go in there, I can kind of just monitor and see what's going on in the context of that process and the things that I care about. And so there's really a lot of very powerful capability, especially when you start leveraging the capabilities to sort of tell your supply chain stories the way you want to see them and to get the information back out that you're looking for. You're going to learn a lot more about these 2 sets of Opus capabilities, and frankly, more than these 2 sets of Opus capabilities in the Opus Solutions Designer tracks this afternoon. And the team is going to kind of peel back the onion on that and show you a lot of really excellent capabilities. By the way, those reports and dashboards, they're not just for your visibility. You can choose to share them out with your corresponding supply chain partner. So for the things that they're doing with you, they see what you see. And a really important piece in enabling that end-to-end orchestration is both parties being synchronized. And so that's an important thing that you'll also be enabled to do. So the last piece that we want to cover is sort of how do you get there? So when you plan your journey and how you get started and how you start to evolve your capabilities and how you start to evolve your mission and what you're trying to strive for, tools like the Supply Chain Orchestration Value Roadmap help you to get there. So it helps you to do things like assess your current supply chain operations, define your specific digitalization objectives that align with your corporate business objectives that you have, prioritize your digitalization initiatives according to that, do cost-benefit analysis, understand what the ROI is going to be, and how do you communicate that? How do you gain a buy-in? How do you define your internal roadmap for the things that are going to be the most impactful to you, and then how you progress upon those and start layering that to get your full end-to-end strategy in place? And how do you execute and monitor your progress and track and know that you're achieving the targets that you're hoping to achieve? And so you're going to learn more about this and how to blueprint in the Orchestration Architects track this afternoon. That'll sort of be the capping session when you get into the blueprinting session. So throughout the rest of the day and across these 3 tracks that we have for you this afternoon, we're going to peel back the layers on these different concepts and these different capabilities that we've touched upon today, this morning, and the different steps of the process that you all can embark on your specific digitalization journey. So I thank you.